For your safety, go away!
A crisis is never just an event. It is a story told, a claim made. It begins with disruption, but unfolds in words, headlines, and silence. In the shadows of borders, and in the winds crossing the channel, crises are named and renamed by power, by fear, by hope. Yet, within each so-called emergency lies a deeper question. Who decides what a crisis is, and for whom? We are in northern edge of France, between Calais, Dunkirk, and Grand Cinthi. The coastline stretches toward the UK, just across the narrow waters of the Channel. This is more than geography. It is a threshold, a place where people wait, endure, and dream of crossing, hoping to reach the UK and claim asylum. Since 2015, these crossings, once rare, have become part of a daily reality, too often reduced to the word crisis. It was then that the world heard of the Calais jungle, a vast camp, chaotic yet human, built from tarps, wood, and necessity. The jungle was dismantled in 2016, but the people remained. Today, they live in scattered tents, beneath highway bridges, in forests, along muddy riverbanks, pushed further and further out of sight. In this in-between space, volunteers and humanitarian groups work every day to defend the most basic rights: food, water, warmth, dignity. Not because it is easy, but because it is necessary.
When the jungle was dismantled in 2016, the French government started following this strategy that they call strategy of non-fixation. So basically, they want to avoid that another jungle will happen again.
We are an organization, and we are mainly working on the subject of crossing attempts here at the border with France and UK, because there is a lot of police at the border, and the police will stop them, sometimes violently, so using gas, using beating up some people, so there is huge case like this. In the winter, the question of the wet clothes is really important, because here in the winter you can have like minus temperatures and you cannot stay wet all night outside. And in the summer, the question of water bottle, it's a big question also, because when you meet people, they are just asking you for water. Sometimes they are spend 1 or 2 days waiting near the beach before to try the attempt, to go in the attempt. And then they are stopped by the police, they are back on the road and waiting again to see when they're gonna be able to try again. And we saw a lot of young people, a lot of babies, women who are pregnant, and they are all just letting outside by the police, by the firefighters, by the hospital who cannot take everyone. We receive different calls also from people directly in the sea. So they try to call the rescue boats. That's a big part of our job to, before they went, tell them how to call the rescue, how to send their location, try to have a life jacket, check the weather before to go. So the problem is that the department and the prefecture and the states, they prefer to just don't look and ignore what's going on and not trying to find something to help those people before something bad happens.
Utopia 56 in the north coast, we have 2 teams. One in Calais and one in near Dunkirk, so near Lune Plage and Grande Sainte, where the camp is. One of our mission is to do risk reduction about the crossings, and we try to give emergency help to the people in distress on the coast when they tried to cross and they are wet on the beach, for example. And we also receive emergency calls, like distress calls, at sea, and in this case we call the MRCC. From the numbers that we see, there is more people on the move, when it started, most of the people were trying to cross by truck, and now it still happens, but most of the people are trying to cross by boats. There's more people on the boat. For example, in the last 2 weeks, if we compare the number of people arriving in the UK by boats and the number of boats arriving, there's an average of 79 people per boat, which is really a huge number, because the boats are supposed to, there's supposed to be 10 or 12 people on board for it to be safe, even if it's never safe to try to cross the channel in this type of boats. And more people are losing their life trying to cross, and a lot of them lost their lives in the first 300 meters from the beach. Where do people come from? It's really depending on Calais or Grande-Synthe. There's not the same nationalities on both camps, and it depends on the period, and it's never the same. Most of the time in Grande-Synthe we meet people from Afghanistan, Eritrea, and Kurdistan. Since the Brexit, a lot of people are telling us that they want to go to the UK to avoid the Dublin rules. Some of them asked asylum in Europe and they were not able to have it, so they need to go to the UK to avoid being sent back to the country in which they arrived. Clearly, in Grande-Synthe, at the moment and since 2-3 months, there's between 1,200 people and 1,800 people on the camp. So there's a lot of families and children, and also isolated minors, but also women alone. And of course there's more risk for them because they're just more exposed to violences.
And yet there are still those who criminalize what happens in Calais and Dunkirk. Not the cold nights, not the waiting, the hunger, the tents, but the people. In speeches, in headlines, in studio debates, the words echo: invasion, illegality, threat. And so, the story shifts. The crisis is no longer about suffering, but about order, control. And those who flee war, persecution, and poverty are spoken of as problems to be solved, rather than lives to be protected.
This morning I've been out in the Channel with our new small boats operational command. We've got organised criminals risking people's lives in makeshift dinghies. Gangs trying to usurp the role of government, taking it upon themselves to decide who comes to our country. So we've introduced unprecedented legislation to make clear that if you come here illegally, you will be detained and removed in weeks, either to your own country or to a safe third country like Rwanda.
Wir haben einen Zukunftsplan für Deutschland, den wir in den ersten 100 Tagen einer Regierungsbeteiligung angehen. Die Grenzen lückenlos schließen und jeden illegal und ohne Papiere Einreisenden zurückweisen und eine ganz klare Ansage an alle Welt: die deutschen Grenzen sind dicht, liebe Freunde. Sie sind dicht.
The framework of crisis claims does not deny the factual reality of a disruption taking place, rather puts emphasis on the process through which specific actors give this disruption a meaning and a qualitative meaning. And so, in a way, we see in this framework how specific makers
choose to identify a disruption in a certain qualitative way compared to others, and also how they communicated to an audience through specific ways of spreading this claim, and then how these audiences in the societies we live in accept or might deny these claims that are made by specific actors.
UK Home Office data shows that small boat arrivals were 299 in 2018. In 2019, the figure sextupled to 1,843, then climbed to 8,466 in 2020, 28,526 in 2021, and 45,774 in 2022. Numbers fell in 2023 to 29,437, but in 2024 rose again to 36,816. By late August 2025, more than 30,000 people had already crossed, with a record first half of about 20,000, plus 48% versus the first half of 2024. The so-called small boats phenomenon is, in reality, a minority slice of UK migration. In 2024, about 36,816 people were detected crossing the Channel in small boats, while the UK issued roughly 951,000 residence visas for work, study, family, or protection in the same year.
Human mobility has often been considered as disruptive to specific receiving societies. This is because often specific movement of people appear to be challenging to receiving societies and are depicted as challenging to receiving society, mainly socially or culturally. Often the amount of people moving is used as evidence for this claim of a crisis of movement.
In the last years, the numbers of people crossing the sea have risen. But as the crossings increase, the noise in France and in the EU fades. Media coverage shrinks. Political attention drifts elsewhere. The so-called crisis continues, only quieter, unseen, unspoken. The attention has shifted. Media play a crucial role in shaping how a crisis is perceived, amplifying certain claims while ignoring others. They can spread the sense of crisis, or prevent it from emerging, highlighting that some disruptions may not be mediatized, yet remain no less real. We counted articles in 4 high-reach outlets: Le Monde, Le Parisien, The Guardian, The Telegraph, and we looked at how many times the terms Channel, Calais, Dunkirk migrant, asylum, and crisis were mentioned. What we encountered is that across the full 2019 to today window, the UK outlets publish more Channel asylum items than the French outlets, and small boats vastly outnumbers crisis in UK copy, while crisis becomes sparse in France. This mirrors the institutional shift. Brussels files the Channel under EU-UK cooperation briefs, while Westminster keeps it front stage politics. Same sea, different politics. Brussels lowers the volume, London keeps it loud.
So the framework of crisis as claims practically outlines that crises are claims made about a specific situation that is not bearable anymore, and the urgent need to go back to normalcy or to reach a normalcy and a bettering of these conditions.
The question that remains thus is the same. What constitutes a crisis? Is it numbers of people trying to cross the sea? The suffering? The chaos? Or is it the way some actors choose to name it? But here in the fields of Calais, in the woods near Dunkirk, what we see is not an emergency unfolding. It's a routine, a rhythm, a limbo. As a person in movement said, this is no longer a crisis. It's a waiting room, If crisis is a claim, we can write a different narrative.
I think one way of saving lives, of preventing people from dying in the channels, would be to provide more safe and legal routes for people to go to the UK, because for now there is no legal routes.
From the European Union and France.
Exactly, from France to the UK. And the UK is basically already externalizing its borders to France by securitizing here. But they should also externalize the asylum system. If they could apply for asylum in the UK but on French grounds here in Calais, before doing the dangerous journey to the UK, that would save lives.
They would know whether the application would be rejected in the UK at least. So
and they could safely travel by plane, by train, yes.